Is Jimmy Kimmel cooked? And what does freedom of speech look like for movies during the era of Trump? We discuss this and more on the movie Insurrectionist. Welcome to the movie Insurrectionist. I am your host, Rashad, the movie Insurrectionist, and we are moving into this week's live stream. It's September 21st, 2025, and there's a lot going on in these movie streets. The sports horror film Him was released Friday, but it's received reviews that are just as horrific, and it's predicted to lose this weekend's box office battle to the anime film Dragon Slayer. My review of Him will be up later this week. Please watch out for it on this channel and any other reviews on the movie Insurrectionist. But before we get into that, please subscribe to our channel by pressing the bell icon, like the video, comment in the chat section, and please follow us on X. Now, let's go ahead and move on. I want to discuss a more pressing issue to the movie industry: freedom of speech. Because after all, none of us can make any content if we don't have our First Amendment constitutional rights. So I want to discuss this most trending topic concerning freedom of speech: Jimmy Kimmel. Trendy right now is the suspension of the Jimmy Kimmel show, which originally aired in 2003. He's been a late night talk show host for 22 years, but all of that came crashing down in immediate fashion when he told this joke related to slaying right-wing conservative suspected white supremacist Charlie Kirk last week. I want you to go ahead and take a look at your screen.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk.
Fair use,
sir,
by the way.
personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief: construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish. Okay.
So, as we see here, and if my ears don't deceive me, I think I might have heard it wrong, but it seems like to me that Jimmy Kimmel didn't even talk about Charlie Kirk. The joke was about Donald Trump. That was the butt of this joke, and that's who he was making fun of in this. So why are all these MAGA morons so triggered because he wasn't talking about their demagogue, Charlie Kirk, their martyr, but he's talking about Donald Trump? Why did ABC cancel his show? Well, there may actually be a lot more insight into this than a lot of people actually know. This was an article that was actually put out from the Intelligentsia. Very interesting article that I read, and it's labeled, the title of it reads, Trump's Beef with Jimmy Kimmel, A Brief History. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and read the whole entire article because it would take too long for me to actually do all that. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go through some of the videos and show you the history of Jimmy Kimmel and also Donald Trump. Their feud actually goes back years and years. But let's go ahead and look at this article, and I'm going to show you first the history between these two and their relationship in terms of where it actually started. This video is actually before Donald Trump was elected. It's back in 2015. I don't think he was even actually, he may have been considering, but I don't think he actually had put his bid in to be president at that time as of yet. But let's see how the relationship was actually during this time. Fair use. Damn it, the videos.
We're back with Donald Trump. Gary Clark Jr. is on the way. Donald, poor Tom.
Go ahead and cue that. It turns off.
Thought was very funny. Your doctor released, as tradition goes,
I see that.
medical reports, and your doctor released your medical report. It says, I'll summarize, to whom it may concern, I've been the personal physician of Mr. Donald J. Trump since 1980. His laboratory tests were astonishingly excellent. His physical strength and stamina are extraordinary. If elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency.
Whoa. I love that.
How do you get a doctor?
Good.
How do you get a doctor to write
in all fairness, I said, Doc, I want to tell you, I'll be the healthiest president ever. And he said, oh, I think I agree. And I think he probably took my words and he put them down.
By the way, somebody
He's actually
looked
a good doctor. So far, a great doctor.
This is his picture on Facebook. This is your doctor.
Oh, wow.
What kind of a doctor is he?
I've never seen that look. I see a much different look in the office.
Do you do your own Christmas shopping?
Well, you know, I'm not big.
So it seems like him and old Donnie are getting along quite well at this point. No animosity here. Let's move a little bit further.
Well,
Bestsellers.
Never a children's book, though, right?
Oh, I want to do that.
Okay. Because I would like to make $1 trillion or whatever it is that you have also. So I've ghostwritten a book that I put.
They both share their obsession with money, two avarice white males. But let's continue.
Your name on, okay? And it's called Winners Aren't Losers. It's for children. May I read it to you?
Yes, I like it. I like it.
All right, Winners Aren't Losers.
I'm not going to go through all that, but nothing much to see here. We get the idea that Trump and Kimmel were cordial at this time. He seems to share his avarice ideas of uber capitalism. Now, this was before Trump became president. It was the year 2015. But something occurred that may have changed Jimmy Kimmel's perspective. And let's go ahead and let's see the next section of this article, what it talks about. Fair use.
I have a story to tell about something that happened to our family last week. I'm sorry, I try not to get emotional, but it was a scary story.
I'm going to go ahead and cue this because it turns off. 220.
So they call a pediatric cardiologist, Dr. Eben Zahn, who, when they called him, was picking his mother up from the airport. Luckily, her plane was not delayed because he got to the hospital very quickly. They did an echocardiogram, which is a sonogram of the heart, and found that Billy was born with a heart disease, something called tetralogy of Fallot with pulmonary atresia. It's hard to explain. Basically, the pulmonary valve was completely blocked, and he has a hole in the wall between the left and right sides of his heart. And then they brought my wife in, and they wheeled her in, and Dr. Zahn told her what was going on and what our options were, and we decided to take him to Children's Hospital, where there's a world-renowned cardiac surgeon who is, by all accounts, a genius. His name is Dr. Von Starnes. So we put the baby in an ambulance to Children's Hospital, Los Angeles, and on Monday morning, Dr. Starnes opened his chest and fixed one of the two defects in his heart. He went in there with a scalpel and did some kind of magic that I couldn't even begin to explain. He opened the valve, and the operation was a success. It was the longest 3 hours of my life.
So you guys catch that? So you hear about his son's heart condition, his health condition. But there was something else that Jimmy Kimmel said during this speech that he gave about his family, about his son and his son's health condition. There was something he actually said too that triggered old Donnie. Let's go ahead and cue this down to 10. And you'll see exactly what he said. Fair use.
Deal last night to not go along with that. They actually increased funding by $2 billion, and I applaud them for doing that. Because more than 40% of the people who would have been affected by those cuts of the National Institute of Health are children, and it would have a major impact on a lot of great places, including Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, which is so unbelievably sad to me. We were brought up to believe that we live in the greatest country in the world, but until a few years ago, millions and millions of us had no access to health insurance at all. You know, before 2014, if you were born with congenital heart disease like my son was, there was a good chance you'd never be able to get health insurance because you had a pre-existing condition. You were born with a pre-existing condition. If your parents didn't have medical insurance, you might not live long enough to even get denied because of a pre-existing condition. If your baby is going to die, and it doesn't have to, it shouldn't matter how much money you make. I think that's something that, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or something else, we all agree on that, right? I mean, we do.
Whoa. So, well, Jimmy showed that he wasn't locked key in step with old Donnie after his heartfelt monologue, and I guess after one of his loved ones was affected by the right-wing policies, he started to value the concept of universal health care. But this phase of enlightenment wasn't had without a rebuttal from the powers that be. If you read here, it says, White House pressured Disney to censor Kimmel in Trump's first term. And Jimmy Kimmel replied to that threat by making another emotional plea for gun safety laws and throwing it into the face of the GOP. Here's a little bit about what he
Wix,
actually said.
one platform, any website, unlimited creation.
He says it's not the time for moments of silence, but rather a time to be loud. Late-night host Jimmy Kimmel delivering an emotional message to all parents, to all Americans, and to the politicians who are blocking gun safety legislation that the vast majority of Americans want.
If your solution to children being massacred is armed guards, you haven't been paying attention to what's going on. There was an armed guard in Buffalo. There was an armed guard in Parkland. There was an armed guard in Uvalde. They had armed guards. There were police officers armed on the scene. And these murders still happen. And gun control laws do work, by the way. We know this. 26 years ago, Scotland had a school shooting that killed 16 kids and a teacher, and the government responded by enacting gun control legislation. And there hasn't been a school shooting in Scotland since then.
So Kimmel got more and more political, pushing more of the left's rhetoric, more of the right, despised exactly what he had to say. And Kimmel mocks Trump's and in retaliation, of course, old Donnie starts making mean tweets towards Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not going to go through here with the Oscars, but I'll just read some of the stuff that he actually said. Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less than average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Get rid of Kimmel and perhaps replace him with another washed up but cheap ABC talent. And then Donnie had more to say about Jimmy Kimmel. Stupid Jimmy Kimmel, who still hasn't recovered from his horrendous performance and big ratings drop at the host of the Academy Awards, especially when he showed up suffering from TDS, commonly known as Trump derangement syndrome, to the entire world by reading on air my truth about how bad a job he was doing that night. Read before the stumble through announcements announcing the biggest award of all, Picture of the Year. And he rants more and more, and he has other tweets that he just goes in. And it was actually this year that that Donald Trump made it very clear that he wanted Jimmy Kimmel to get the same treatment as Stephen Colbert. Now you see the firing of Jimmy Kimmel did not come out of left field. Him and Donald Trump have been at it for years at this point, and Trump decided to impose his influence as commander-in-chief and actually set a precedence by talking to the networks, or persuading them, I'm pretty sure he did that, to let go of Jimmy Kimmel, a man that he's had problems with for a very long time, for over a decade at this point. From the time that he hosted the Oscars to his plea to bring back Obamacare, and as well as his advocacy for gun rights, a lot of things that the GOP actually hates. Most people don't agree with old Donnie's tactics, including our favorite wannabe white supremacist bedwench, Candace Owens. In the same reality, I would disagree with just about everything this woman says, but in this time, up is down and down is up. And when you know Candace Owens and the likes of someone like Tucker Carlson on the right side of history, you know that things are very real. But let's go ahead and hear what this heifer's got to say about this whole entire incident. I thought she had something pretty interesting to say. Listen to this.
It was a insensitive joke, okay? I don't think that would have been the justification for saying that he now needs to donate to charity and lose his whole life. And this is what happened. He's taken off air, and some people are saying, hey, Candace, they did this to us. And you're not wrong, right? If you are on the right and you are saying that when the whole George Floyd thing happened, people lost their jobs for saying sensible things or making a joke, you are correct. Like, you are right to say, yes, that absolutely did happen. But if you're not recognizing that when you just flip the coin, it's the same people that are gaining more power, I just want the attacks on free speech to stop, okay? I want the reaction, if you're angry about what Jimmy Kimmel said, is for the free markets to take him out, right? He doesn't have a show because nobody's watching him anymore because they're so disgusted by what he said. That's what I want. I want us to be in control, right, of where we spend our dollars, of what we're saying, and not like the government to press a button and say, you lose everything because we don't like what you said. And it should be noted, by the way, that in the same monologue, he did call the murder senseless the day that it happened.
Enough of the babble, but you guys get the point. Although what she said about George Floyd, I can't actually go ahead and agree with all that, but the point that she's making is particularly interesting, and I would have to agree with that. Free speech and limiting free speech is setting a very dangerous precedent no matter who it is. I do agree with that, absolutely. But I disagree with her on just about everything else. Well, most people, including myself, agree, including myself, that the government shouldn't interfere with our ability to express ourselves in public. The protection of the First Amendment right is imperative, and millions of folks are supporting Jimmy Kimmel by canceling their Disney Plus subscriptions, which I don't mind considering Disney's history with us. However, there is a problem. There are no heroes, especially the woman you see on this screen in this story. The truth is, Jimmy Kimmel, Candace Owens, Donald Trump, and Charlie Kirk share one thing in common that makes them oppositional to us as foundational Black Americans: their anti-Black racist tendencies. Jimmy Kimmel isn't a hardcore white supremacist like Charlie Kirk or Nick Fuentes, but he has a history of indulging in some inappropriate jokes at black folks' expense. And for those of you that are younger, you may not know this about Jimmy Kimmel, but for those of us that remember where he got his start, this is what I remember.
As Karl Malone get older, he started thinking about things like dropping down dead. People always asking Karl Malone, is there life after death? Well, Karl Malone don't know. Some folk believe you're going to heaven or to hell. Karl Malone would prefer heaven, that's for dang sure. But other folk think dead dude come back to earth in different shape. And that there's called reincarnation. Now, my whole thing is this. If there do have such a thing as reincarnation, Karl Malone don't want to be coming back to earth as no chicken. Chicken got a dang deal going on here on earth. Locked up in pan, getting fried up, barbecued, wings getting chopped off and dipped in delicious, tangy hot sauce.
Hilarious. That's just me slapping. He's a comedic genius. He should be up there with the greats, I guess. We all see this. This is Jimmy Kimmel in blackface. This is Jimmy Kimmel in blackface, imitating NBA Hall of Famer Karl Malone, who played for the Utah Jazz. And he actually did this on his program, The Man Show, for years. Well, I was out last night and I was asked, why wasn't Jimmy Kimmel canceled for doing this? Well, social media wasn't as prominent as it is today. And in fact, he did this sketch several times during the run of The Man Show, which actually was co-hosted by Adam Carolla, who's a hardcore right-wing conservative who has views and has said things that are identical actually to Charlie Kirk. If you want to go ahead and Google him and listen to some of the stuff that he's actually said. But he actually did this show for nearly 10 years. And when was his show aired? Was it aired in the 70s? No. The 80s? How about the 90s? So when in fact did Jimmy Kimmel actually stop doing this blackface of Karl Malone? It was in the year 2003. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel did apologize for doing this sketch in 2020. I guess he realized he didn't actually want to get canceled. This would come out and people like myself would probably call him out on this. So we should forgive him, right? Because after all, Jimmy Kimmel has atoned for his sins. But wait, he said something else to defend the FBA family. What else could that be? What else actually could that be? Let's find out.
Is the key. Thank you. And last but not least, to the woman that rocks my chain, Angela Evelyn Bassett, this one is for you, girl. Obama out. Hillary in.
That's Courtney Vance winning Best Actor in the Limited Series for The People vs. O.J. Simpson, portraying Johnny Cochran. And of course, he's giving his bae auntie, Angela Bassett, props for being there for him. But that's not the part that's problematic. This right here is the problematic thing. Watch.
He was so great in that. I have to believe that Johnny Cochran is somewhere smiling up at us tonight.
You actually heard that. Did you guys hear what he just said? This was at the 2016 Emmys. Did you guys all hear what he just said? If you didn't hear it, I'll go back and I'll replay it one more time.
He was so great in that. I have to believe that Johnny Cochran is somewhere smiling up at us tonight.
I got to believe that somewhere Johnny Cochran is smiling up at us tonight. That's what he just said. Johnny Cochran, our ancestor, warrior scholar, Johnny Cochran, is staring up at us tonight. So he's sitting up and insinuating that Johnny Cochran is in hell, and he's staring up at us, and he's proud that somebody portrayed him in a series. This is what Jimmy Kimmel actually said. This is what he said. This was in the 2016 Primetime Emmys when he hosted it, and he actually had the audacity, the gall, to actually come out and insult Johnny Cochran. This joke, if you want to call it as such, was not funny. Johnny Cochran isn't here to defend himself. Johnny Cochran had a family, friends, and a community that loved him. Jimmy Kimmel shouldn't talk ill of the dead. Isn't this what the conservative and liberal media says about Charlie Kirk? Jimmy Kimmel didn't say anything negative about Charlie Kirk in his joke, which got him exterminated from television. But for Johnny Cochran, he had to lampoon him, even though Johnny Cochran wasn't doing anything but what's in his job description. According to Jimmy Kimmel, Johnny Cochran is in hell. But wait, wasn't Johnny Cochran a Christian just like Charlie Kirk? Johnny Cochran deserves all the smoke because he provided a service that every rich white man, including Jimmy Kimmel himself, receives, which is a competent attorney to make sure you receive a fair trial. But to Jimmy Kimmel, black people are not supposed to get competent attorneys. We're not supposed to have fair trials. If you say that we did it, then we must have done it. And because you felt that we did it, he should go to jail. Anyone that helped you not get railroaded by the system, well, they deserve to be in hell. Let me introduce you guys actually to the real Johnny Cochran. There's an article that I posted, that I pulled up, one of the many articles, there's so many of them, Fighting Police Brutality the Johnny Cochran Way. Because you see, Johnny Cochran was more than just the O.J. Simpson trial. He wasn't some slick con man that they portrayed in The People versus O.J. Simpson. He was a champion for Black L.A., and the majority of his cases dealt with no J's, everyday black folks, as he put it, instead of OJs. He was Ben Crump before there was a Ben Crump, and he sued the LAPD and other law enforcement agencies within LA County hundreds of times to counter the ongoing problem of police brutality. He wasn't known as a liar, a hate monger, or a person that minimized school shootings. Johnny Cochran was a person that we could actually defend with his documented deeds without trying to hide or punish people for revealing his history. And the reason why I chose to talk about Jimmy Kimmel, it isn't because I believe that Jimmy Kimmel is as vile a racist as Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump based on what I know of him. I want to highlight this. I want to highlight that this is a fight between the two factions of white supremacy within America. The right-wing white supremacists versus the left-wing white supremacists. Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air has nothing to do with us because this is how black folks get treated every single day in this country. How many of you guys listening have lost your jobs and you didn't do anything wrong? How many black shows have been canceled even though the ratings were high, but the network still gave it the axe despite its performance? How many black actors have been targeted by white supremacist geeks online just because they existed in Star Wars, Marvel, or the Lord of the Rings universe? This is what we deal with every single day of our lives. Currently, Disney has lost billions and billions of dollars, and you have people out here boycotting them. Many of them are folks in the family. But to the FBA family and black folks around the world, Where was his energy for Disney when they released Song of the South? Where was his energy for Disney when they released Dumbo, The Jungle Book? Where was his energy for Walt Disney when it became common knowledge that he was indeed a hardcore white supremacist who despised black people? Where was his energy for Disney then? Most of you guys up here supporting Jimmy Kimmel, who talks like a character in Song of the South. Most of you guys out here defending him had nothing to say about that. When Marvel, which is owned by Disney, put out Black Panther, you guys act like it was the second coming of Roots. You got in your African garments. You made Disney billions and billions of dollars. And most of you knew that Walt Disney was a hardcore racist. He called his employees niggers to their faces. This is how he talked. And he was unapologetic about it until the day that he died. And although Jimmy Kimmel is not swimming in the same sewage as someone like a Walt Disney, but he does have some of Walt Disney's tendencies when it comes to us. So where was all this energy when Disney offended us? Where was that energy then? This is who you ride for? I got to ask that question. This is who some of you guys who are out here talking about this issue, and you're not calling out Jimmy Kimmel on his blackface, his disrespect towards our icons, like Johnny Cochran. You have nothing to say about that, but this is who you want to ride for your First Amendment right. And although we do deserve a First Amendment right, and I'm not saying that Jimmy Kimmel's show should be taken off the air, but the same sort of treatment that he's getting for Charlie Kirk, he should have got when he disrespected Johnny Cochran. Because Johnny Cochran actually did positive things for black people. Johnny Cochran is someone that we can actually look to, and we can sit up and we can say that he was a decent human being. Whether or not you think O.J. Simpson was guilty or not, that is his job as an attorney. Charlie Kirk was a liar. Charlie Kirk trafficked in anti-black stereotypes and hatred. And with his final breath, when he got shot in the neck, he was talking about us. And that's how he lived his life. But you're willing to boycott Disney for Jimmy Kimmel, but you can't even do it for yourself. And as Bobby Wright once said, that's menticide. Donald J. Trump isn't our friend. Neither is Charlie Kirk. Neither is Disney. Damn sure neither is Candace Owens. And neither is Jimmy Kimmel. This situation reminds me of an episode of Breaking Bad. I see nothing but villains, and I can't root for anyone involved in this whole entire situation. So with that being said, I'm kicking up my feet, I'm popping my popcorn, and I'm watching to see who comes out on top and who gets slaughtered in this whole entire ordeal, because it don't have anything to do with us. Now, if willing, I was asked to open up the lines. I want to see if there's enough people actually in the comment section to open up the lines. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking some calls at my peril. If you want to go ahead and contact the movie Insurrectionist. Look in the description. There is a link to the Zoom. I will sit up and I will let you talk, and we can talk a little bit about this discussion that we're having about Jimmy Kimmel. And do you agree or disagree that he indeed has gotten his nigger wake up call? Go ahead and give me a call. This is the movie Insurrectionist. It seems we got our first caller here. What's going on, brother?
What's happening, brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Tell us your name and where you calling from.
I'm calling from California, Montana.
Fontana. All right, cool.
Indeed. I had a question about what Candace, excuse me, what Candace Owens was talking about. I'm not, who lost their job for speaking something ill about George Floyd? I don't recall that. Or was she just making things up, just pulling it out of her?
No one heard. She probably pulled out of her ass. I mean, that sounds about right with her. You know, her and Charlie Kirk, they swim in the same sewage. They swim in the same sewage. I mean, Candace Owens, this is the same woman that said that George Floyd, died of fentanyl, and there was never a black person that got killed by the police that she never applauded. So, if she's not producing any kind of receipts, which usually is the case for people like her, we have to be suspect of what she's talking about.
Yeah, I found that I didn't believe that at all, because these folks always just say anything like that. They know you can't fact check in real time, and nobody's gonna call them out on their BS, so they just spew anything. I've never heard of anyone losing their job for saying anything about George Floyd, even that I believe on Fox News they said he may have died of fentanyl, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure about that, but I've never heard anybody losing their job for disagreeing how George Floyd passed.
Well, brother, the interesting thing about the whole George Floyd thing is, and it's kind of the point that I was making just about with Johnny Cochran versus, what Jimmy Kimmel said about Johnny Cochran versus what he actually didn't even say about Charlie Kirk. You know, is the fact that when it comes to us and they get up and they get there and they offend us, they disrespect us, nothing ever happens. We're told to be quiet. They try to silence us. But if you even mention someone like a Charlie Kirk, who has a reputation for being this hardcore hate monger, who has spewed lies and told all sorts of negative things about black people, you lose your job. And on top of that, like you mentioned with George Floyd, the cop that killed him, Derek Chauvin, there actually was a fund, for his defense after what he did. So that's always the case. That's always the case with us, and this is what we see. So Candace Owens is highly suspect. I can't believe anything she says, and if she doesn't produce any receipts, you gotta just take what she says as face value. These white supremacists, they lie big, and they get their minions to do the same thing. So,
Speaking of Charlie Kirk, this guy is getting treatment like he was sitting president or something. Like, why is Fox News concerned about who voted for Charlie Kirk Day or whatever, or him to be honored or whatever? Why are NFL teams honoring Charlie Kirk? Whatever happened to shut up and dribble? Leave politics out of sports. Well,
yeah.
That's what they said when Kaepernick was taking the knee.
Absolutely, you make a very good point there. I mean, and that's the hypocrisy of this system that we live in. So I have decided to stay out of it. I don't think that, like I said about Jimmy Kimmel, I don't think his show should have been taken off the air.
Yeah, that's a bit harsh.
I don't think his show will be taken off the air, but I'm not going to ride for him. And the reason why, like I highlighted before, the man has a history of disrespecting black people. And he's, for the most part, nothing has happened to him for doing so. And I still find it kind of, very interesting, because I see I've been watching on social media where I've seen these different black folks, even in some pro-black spaces, where you got folks out here riding for Jimmy Kimmel, and they don't mention any of the things that I've talked about. They don't discuss any of that. And they talk about our First Amendment right. And, he is giving, Kimmel is getting the black man treatment. He is getting the kind of treatment that we get. He is getting the kind of treatment that we get. But as you saw, him and Trump were friends, and even his partner, Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla for years has had a podcast where he talks a lot like Charlie Kirk. Says things that are identical to Charlie Kirk. And it makes me wonder, because of his age and the age that Charlie Kirk was, if Charlie Kirk actually listened to Adam Carolla, which I suspected he did, just like, I suspected he listened to Joe Rogan during Joe Rogan's heyday. So this is the kind of sewage these people are actually coming from, brother. So that's what we're dealing with. So anyway, thank you for calling.
I had another question. What network was Trump's show on when he had that "I'll Fire You" show, whatever the name of it was?
The Apprentice, that was NBC.
Oh, so they weren't even sharing the network when he was on that show.
No. Jimmy Kimmel show is on ABC. It's owned by Disney.
I've never seen it, not one time.
Yeah. Jimmy Kimmel show is on ABC, the same network that owns Disney, the same network that also owns ESPN. Yeah.
KCAL 9.
Yeah. They own that. They also own what do you call it? Hulu. They own Disney also owns Marvel. They own the Star Wars franchise, Pixar. You know,
Yeah. You mentioned that Star Wars franchise. There was a show I liked on there. It was called The Acolyte, and the star, the star actress on that show was the little girl from the Hunger Games that played Rue. She was a little black girl, and people were just trashing the show for no reason. These Star Wars nerds, the same Star Wars nerds that hadn't seen a minute of the movie besides the trailer and was upset that Jonathan, what's his name? Jonathan Clemenga? What's his name?
What's his name?
I forgot his last name, but he played
John Boyega. John
Boyega. Yeah,
John
there
Boyega.
you go.
All
they saw is him don a lightsaber, and then prior to that, they saw him wearing a stormtrooper's uniform in a trailer, and they lost their shit. They couldn't handle it. That this fictional black man, or this black man, was playing a fictional character wearing these uniforms or costumes, if you will, and people lost their minds. And they did the same thing when they had a black lead in this. It's like a prequel to all of the Star Wars that we've seen, and they were up in arms that this black girl. They were just trashing the show for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm.
None. Now they did the same thing with Ironheart, but I think we can agree that Ironheart probably wasn't the best thing that Marvel's ever put out.
Yeah.
Even prior to that, they weren't even. They didn't wait to even give it a fair critique, though. They were dogging it before it even came out. These Star Wars nerds and these comic book nerds they're the worst when it comes to being white supremacists against art form with black people, fictional art form with black people, and it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of what I talked about, So, what happened to Jimmy Kimmel is what happens to us all the time, and whether it's in entertainment or whether it's in just regular jobs, same kind of thing. Get fired for no reason. You're not. You haven't actually said, because you like what I said with that video. If you watch it, he didn't even make a joke about Charlie Kirk. He didn't say anything negative about Charlie Kirk. It was all about Trump. But Trump has had a vendetta against him for going on 10 years. And because he's had this vendetta against him, now he's back in power, and he's exercising his right to actually do what he wanted to do. He got rid of Colbert, and now he's influencing other networks to get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. So it is what it is. So
anyway. I wonder what he had to tell Disney to make him fire Jimmy Kimmel. I'm curious.
Yeah, it's bizarre times, man. It's bizarre times. But like I said, I don't even think us as black folks should be too concerned about it. This is a fight between the right wing and left wing white supremacists. The stuff that I've shown you, Jimmy Kimmel doesn't really sound much different, than some of the people that we talked about, or at least his mentality is not that much different. Him and Charlie Kirk both believe that O.J. Simpson killed those people.
Yeah, he's somewhere looking up at us was wild.
Yeah,
I had never seen that before. But about the Jimmy Kimmel show, it's not. I mean, Jimmy Kimmel's show got canceled, but there are people that work, the cameras for Jimmy Kimmel show. There's people that work, stage for Jimmy Kimmel show, wardrobe, what have you. But I'm pretty sure some of those people are FBA as well.
Yeah, and that is an unfortunate thing. That is quite unfortunate that you're right. It's not just you make a very good point, because Jimmy Kimmel, I'm sure, although his show is canceled, he'll be fine. But
he's going to be all right.
Yeah, he's going to be all right. But you're right. There are a lot of people that job was employing that they're now out in the cold. They got to find another place to work. So that it is a bad situation, and the fact that they did what they did. Same thing with Colbert show, same thing with his show got canceled. There were a lot of people that were eating off of that show besides Stephen Colbert.
Well, I say that to say that's just how far he was willing to go. He didn't care about his vendetta against Jimmy Kimmel. He didn't care about the collateral damage that it was going to cause. He had a laser focus on getting, tunnel vision on getting Jimmy Kimmel done and off the air. That was his, regardless of who else it was going to affect, get Jimmy Kimmel out of here.
Yeah, Trump is diabolical. Trump is he's a very vindictive individual. Obviously, it seems, and if you cross him, he doesn't forget about it. He's gonna make you pay for it.
It's tough. Well,
he's gonna make you pay for it, even if it's 10 years later. But that's the way that old Donnie gets down.
Hey, it's a slow burn, but he got his revenge in the end. That's all that matters to him. Yeah. Like I said, it don't matter who's gonna catch some shrapnel. He's launching that grenade, and if you're in radius, oh well. As long as I hit my target, that's all he cares about.
And that's terrible. It's a very good point you bring up. So, thank you for the call.
All right.
Let's see. Anybody else? Oh, shucks. Did I think I might have accidentally zoomed out the meeting. Thank you for our caller. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this show for this evening. I want to thank Mr. Fabian Moore for calling in. And I think we'll wrap this up just for today. This is our second live stream. Plan on doing this at least once a week, probably every Sunday, talking about some trending issue that's going on within the entertainment industry. But until then, this is Rashad, the movie Insurrectionist. Thank you for joining us. Please subscribe, like the video, share it, and follow us on X. And remember, the theatrical release will always, it'll never be televised. Until we meet again.